Welcome to the DevReady podcast, where we're helping non-techs build better tech. Today, we're fortunate enough to be joined by Megan to talk all about everything community and hiring strategies when you're in a startup and a scale-up. Megan is the founder of Kairos Recruitment, also Aussie Founders Club, and also another startup called Employed. So she's doing a lot, but mostly honed in around community and people. Megan, thank you for joining us.
Thank you for having me.
You're welcome. Tell us a little bit about you. So what got you into the world of startup, but you've been in recruitment for quite a while as well?
Yeah, it's a lot. Because I work in recruitment, I always tell, I'm teaching people about their personal pitch, but I sometimes feel like mine isn't succinct because there's so many things about it. But you're right. I really focus in on that hiring and community strategy around startup scale-ups. But I've spent 10 years in recruitment. I got to a point in my corporate working for big agency career where I was like, I want to go do this myself. And I actually want to do it for companies where I can add value, consult, stuff that you can't really do when you're hiring for corporates. It's more transactional. So I already had started a little journey building a little side business to help job seekers. It's a really tough market out there, and I think 2024 is showing us that. So when I was weighing up what I was going to do after my last job, I needed to do something where I could give some, my personal projects some time. So I thought, why not just add on another business to that? And so there was Employed. I started Kairos Recruitment, which I was focusing on recruiting for startups and scale-ups. And I actually want to shout out, I took inspiration to do this because there is a guy he actually got me into recruitment. His name's Troy Hammond. He's really, everyone in New Zealand that knows anything about recruitment knows him, but he's actually Melbourne-based. He runs a company called Talent Army, and he actually has a podcast that I recommend. It's called We Fucking Love Startups. And I was like, it's so good. Cool. I was like, I want to be doing something cool in that space, and I love the look of his business. So I started with Kairos. And then I thought, I don't want to be doing cold calls like what you're meant to be doing in recruitment to go pick up your clients. So I thought I'll start a little meetup. It was originally called...
Different take on things, right? So
yeah, I was like, I'll get my clients into a room, but that's ended up taking a life of its own as well. It was called I took inspiration from a New Zealand Facebook group, which was called the New Zealand Startup Tech Ecosystem. I think I've butchered that. That's why I changed the name, though. It's a bit long. And we now have what was originally a meetup, but now it's a community that I'm building called the Aussie Founders Club. So that's a mixture of in-person...
The Aussie Founders Club, yeah, what's the goal of that? Because that fascinates me. There are quite a few of these around. What is the objective?
I've been to some really good meetups. I just felt like there was still space for one which had a bit more engagement and connection within it. And I don't know how to describe it, but I've been to some really good meetups. But what I ended up fostering out of the first, because it was going to be just a meetup, but I've had to, when I decided to go full force in creating a community, I had to pin down what I actually wanted to capture within it. And there was something about it, and I don't know how it happened, but there was something about the first two meetups where it was people I hadn't seen in other rooms, and the space that we originally had the meetup in is a really warm, comfortable, welcoming space. And I always stand at the door and I meet everyone. And I started doing these things where I'd be like, I took this actually from Stone and Chalk, where I'd give them a name badge and give them somebody else's name to go say hello. And from there, it sort of fostered this really warm community where anyone can come in that wants to learn about something and make connections with people in the community. So from there, we've got 3 pillars we're going to try and we're focusing on. It's the events and community piece. It's I've completely forgotten the second one. The third one is we are looking at telling the stories of founders in the Australian community. And education. So each of our meetups, we usually talk about a topic for startups, and we'll look to do webinars and that type of thing as well.
Got it. If you want to share stories of founders, feel free to get them on the DevReady podcast talking about tech founders, because we love speaking to them. So by any
Yeah,
means,
I'll let
happy
you
to
know.
talk about that.
I've got a
Yeah.
list.
Yeah, no, brilliant. That sounds really good. So that's exciting. So there's always, but I can see that's all related. And one thing I've noticed about you is you take learnings from other people. I've noticed 3 of them. Just
Oh
put in
yeah.
there. We'll take that, steal that, use that, reuse that. Yeah, that's brilliant.
Yeah. Oh, I don't like
A lot
to
of
say
people
steal. I like to say inspired by.
inspired by.
Yeah.
Realities we're all learning from others, but some
Yeah,
people try to
100%.
just sit down, put their head down, and figure it out for themselves. But realities, there's a lot of things we can take from others, and we
Yeah.
can learn and be inspired from
Yeah,
to
exactly.
actually make a difference. Brilliant. Let's dig on hiring. What are the key challenges for people in startups, scale ups, especially founders? That they've got 1 or 2 people, but then when they need to go to 5 to 10, it's a different game. You need different hats in the business. You need different people that can do different things, different skill sets. And a founder is very busy, generally doing many things, investors, customer focused, or they're
So
product
many hats.
focused. They could be anything. It just depends on what type of founder they are. How do you drive good talent in a scale up? It's probably a really tough question, but what might I start to look at to really get people inspired to come work with our startup, for example?
Yeah. Okay, cool. So I think starting off, I think founders, and I actually went to the Startup Network. The first meetup event that I went to was the Startup Network, and they had Jonathan Jeffries from Think and Grow. And he spoke about it, that you need to spend 80% of your time in the thing, your domain expertise. But a thing that happens with Australian and Kiwi founders is we're really scrappy. So we try and wear all the different hats. So you're spending probably 60% learning how to do the accounting system and use like Xero and how to do the design component, even though you're a tech founder. So when it comes to that recruitment piece, it's just another hat that you're trying to learn. And from an outside perspective, it does look like you could go DIY it, and you can. There's no, like, you can. But it's just something that you can go do. You can go chuck up an ad and people will come, and then you interview them and you hire them. But there's a lot of magic that comes and expertise that comes with hiring the people that are going to give you that 10x growth, the stuff that's going to really accelerate your startup, and also take like some of those hats that you're wearing and be able to run with them at the level that you want them to. So I find a lot of the conversations are I'm chucking up ads and I'm getting a lot of applications, and they will be because we've just gone through these runs of tech redundancies and that type of thing. But I know, because I'm hiring, so many of those applications that we're getting aren't the right fit. There'll be, it's just not purpose built for what the company is hiring for. And this is across a lot of industries actually. So part of what I really focus on with Kairos is it's that employer branding. Maybe you don't have a story articulated yet, but it's about articulating the story, the mission of that startup, getting them bought into what you're doing, because you're not going to be able to offer them the salaries that corporate does, but you can give them so much more in terms of growth potential, in terms of potentially equity, potentially being able to fulfill them in different ways. It costs nothing to be flexible. There are so many different elements that you could tie into creating that employer brand and telling that story. The other thing is LinkedIn is really noisy at the moment, and your best platform to go find talent is either in person, which at a networking event, which takes a lot of time, or it's on LinkedIn Recruiter, headhunting, networking via that. But as I say, it's noisy, and if you're not disclosing in your first message that story about yourself, you're often not going to get that buy-in to even reply. So what we like to do at Kairos is build a microsites, so that maybe we're sitting down with a client, maybe we're talking to them, asking them about their story, their journey, how do they get there, what can they offer people? Because when I've gone to look for my own co-founders, the things I can offer if they come in to join my recruitment company is exposure to this community that's going to level up whatever they do in that recruitment side of things. The same can be said for startups. So if we can sit down, tell that story, I can flesh it out in a microsite. Maybe we get a video. And then when I'm headhunting for them, or even they can do this themselves, if they're headhunting for themselves, they can be sending a link that takes into a powerful, a bit more of a dynamic page about themselves. So many people don't do things like that, and it's free. It just takes a little bit of time.
No, not many would. I think that you are selling the business, right? So when we're selling a business on a website, it's to the customer, it's not to the people coming into the business. I think we get a little bit lost in that sometimes, and if we want to attract good people, it's to be talking to them in a particular way. It's like anything, sales 101. Know your customer. they're a team member, a potential big role that you want to bring into the business. That's a very good point. And how do we communicate to them at mass, which is, microsites. What are you doing? Just spinning up a simple
My website is
Wix
on
sort of thing.
Squarespace.
Squarespace, got it.
It's free. It's like another page on my website that I've just chucked up on Squarespace, essentially.
Makes sense. All right. And it's all about just telling the story of the business rather than, and then why come work for us and who we are, what the goals are, what the mission is, the objectives are. Makes sense just to give people here it is rather than just here's an ad on Seek, which a lot of people do, or here's an ad in LinkedIn or something like that, and then off you go.
Yeah. The other thing is, as a recruiter, if I can, because I've recruited for corporates, there are roles. So you get monitored on your response rates on LinkedIn. And if it gets below a certain point, which if you think about email response rates when you're doing a big email out, it's similar, and your response rates they're just getting worse and worse and worse. And I like to think I put a lot of thought into mine. And one time I did get notified that my messages weren't being open to the rate that they should be. And that was because I started messaging people that weren't open to work. So with certain roles, you're going to be like, cool, there's nothing amazing, special about this. I'm just going to go for the people that've got the green banner on, they've said they're open to work. When you articulate the right message, and I've done this before, you can spread your net wider without a risk of that and actually get response rates that are really good. So it's about articulating those things that are then attracting the people that aren't actively looking as well. It's a huge part of it.
It's a tough one, finding who's actively looking, open to work. That's obviously they may not be in work at the moment because you're not going to put that up if you're working. So it just cuts down the opportunity as to who you might target. But it makes sense. It'd be easier to find someone in that category, definitely. Got it. If I mentioned this many times before, just off camera, when we're startup founders, we're doing many things. We take on the role of trying to recruit someone into the business. Why would I go and get a recruiter? What's the advantages to that? Obviously, you know the industry, you've done it forever. What's the other things that we're not thinking about as startup founders?
Yeah, so I do think people can go DIY their own recruitment. Do I think that they're going to do it as well as somebody who is a true expert in the domain? I don't think so at all. I've seen some startups actually though, like Reloom. Are you familiar with Reloom?
I am a video thing. Is that right? It's like a video sharing? Or
no, that's Loom. Reloom
that's Loom. Okay.
Yeah. Close though.
Sorry. I was thinking of something completely different.
Yeah, I've watched Reloom. Now and I've listened to a podcast with them, and actually, if they ever want to use a recruiter, I would love to work with them. But no, Reloom has done this brilliant job of really articulating their employer value, and I don't believe they use internal recruiters, or when I started watching them, they didn't. They were doing it themselves, but they spent a bunch of time being like, how do we be market leaders that people want to come work for? And they've done that themselves. So you can absolutely DIY it. Not many people have capacity to spend the time to be like, how do we get this process down pat? How do we really articulate the vision? So if you can work with a recruiter, and I'm not saying you need to be careful with who you're working with as well. Are they going to be able to give you the time and value that you need as a startup founder, or are they going to do the normal recruitment that they would do with like your big corporates or whatever? The pieces of the puzzle, though, that they're not looking at is the candidate experience when people aren't getting a job. So I've been speaking to someone who's been interviewing with startups, and he has talked to me about like, oh, I think I dodged a bullet there because of X, Y, and Z within the interview, or I didn't get feedback, or you want someone to manage your process that's going to leave even the people who don't get the jobs being like, I didn't get that job, but if I had another opportunity, I would interview with them again, maybe for another role. Or they're not attracted to other people in their market when someone's talking about places they've interviewed as well, because that can be such a big thing around it. With the multiple hats as well, I just think the amount of time I've been figuring out how to make a website that is like a lead gen, or doing my Zero and figuring that all out, it's not where I'm going to be adding the most value. So if you have the luxury of being able to spend some money to pay someone, and that doesn't mean paying an agency fee where you're paying, 15, 18% on a placement. You could be working with someone who's a fractional recruiter who charges you it's a way more favourable, who sits there and is an embedded partner. We do this with Kairos. We give a couple of models. It's going to pay off. I 100% believe if you're using the right people, it'll pay off in the quality of your hires. And
I've
then
heard
you can
about
do the
fractional
stuff.
recruiter before. That's the first for me. Heard about fractional CFOs, CEOs, or CFOs, but not that angle.
Fractional talent advisory. Yeah, I've got some friends who operate in this space, and also we essentially can do that as well. But you're getting someone who's on top of their game in that space, and then you're getting to do the stuff that you're on top of your game for. But I do understand money is always a big concern for startups. So potentially you just want to talk to someone and get some advice. I can help with that as well. If anyone wants to talk to me.
Talk to me a little bit about the market right now. Investors have dried up a little bit in the world of startup. It's slowed down. The market's probably very flat. AI is different, but everything else is probably flat. And then you've got, obviously, a lot of layoffs in the world of tech. What's the market looking like? Is it favourable now for startup scale-ups to attract more people, or is it becoming harder because of the lack of capital? There's probably two things fighting each other. Maybe more favourable because we've got more talent available, potentially.
Yeah.
But then the capital in might be a little bit drier. So what's that look like in your world?
It's definitely been flat for the last, we do still have quite low unemployment rates in Australia. But when you find yourself in this market, the market's not moving very fast. So I'm talking to a CTO who last time he got made redundant, he had only been in the market for the weekend, and now he's been out of work for 9 months because he moved to Brisbane in COVID, and that's made it even worse, right? I speak to a lot because I speak for employed as well, where I'm helping job seekers. People that are exceptional talent are sitting in the market, and for the candidate side, they're needing to communicate their value differently. So the CV that might have got them the job in 2022 isn't the CV that's going to get them the job in 2024. And also there's a whole kettle of, it's a whole another ball game in terms of networking and using the avenues that you do.
What's changed there? You mentioned CV change. What's changed? What's evolved?
So in 2022, I don't make much money at the moment because I'm in a startup world, but I worked in a corporate and I never made more money in my life. And it was because the market there was so many jobs. It felt really painful because there weren't that many candidates, but if you found the candidate with the technology, it was a placement. Now you can find the people with that technology, too many of them. So you need to be, I saw a post the other day from a recruiter who was saying people are looking for reasons to not hire you. And I found that to be true in the way that I recently worked a sales role with a really fat salary on it. Actually, I had another sales role that was sitting right next to it with a lower salary. And across those two roles, I probably had like 400 applicants. And I personally...
Citing through, isn't it, Jess?
Yeah, and people say AI is like declining the candidates. It's not. I'm personally going through these CVs. So I am looking for reasons to be declining people. I'm looking for ways that I can get my list down to 20 people that I call. So you need to be conveying a story about yourself, articulating yourself better. So previously I was looking for a keyword that would match what I was looking for. Now I'm looking for the standout CV. So it's a rough market.
Yeah, fascinating. All right. So you're looking for, at the beginning, you might be looking for a tech or a skill set. Now you're looking at something that really shines a light on this person. Yeah.
Yeah, 100%.
It's a different way you're looking at them. Yeah, okay. Got it.
Yeah.
What stands out generally on a CV? Let's help some people who are wanting into the world of tech. What's some things that really stand out in your eyes?
So I think, look, there are so many professional summaries that are just bland. It's like, I'm a BA. You don't hire so many BAs in startup world anymore, but like, just using the words that are meant to be used, and they're just describing the job that you would expect, like their professional summary is just describing what the person does, which you'd absolutely expect, and you would interpret that from just seeing the job title, and then all the words that tell the story about them are just regurgitating what you already assume that person should be doing. So it's like, what's your unique selling proposition, and get that in your professional summary. I think wrapping up on a sentence about where you're heading, not like this is my career objective. Well, yeah, you do, but a lot of professional summaries just tell a whole story about that. You don't need to be doing that. It could be just like, I'm looking to get into an innovative environment that is utilizing AI that I can get my hands dirty type of thing. Maybe not in that sentence, you could write that better, but that's the story you're telling with it. And then you want to have your technologies definitely still in there, so people, because we are still looking, you're looking for a developer, right? You're looking
still need the skill set, yeah, correct.
Yeah. But with the actual role, people forget to leave their achievements. They just say what the responsibility is. And that's what any person in that role does, right? That's what the remit is. A good person in that role and a bad person in that role do the exact same things. Make sure your achievements are the things that you've gone and driven, that are outcomes that are specific to you as well.
Yeah, that's the uniqueness, right? Like you said, yeah, you can just, all right, I'm a BA. Yes, you're going to be speaking to stakeholders, gather requirements.
Yeah, you do requirement gathering. Cool.
That's the normal. Yeah. But what have you achieved in that role? Yeah, mate, that's clear. So if anyone's looking to get a role of tech, maybe take some of those points on board, might assist, definitely.
Or head up employed. There's some people over there that can help.
We haven't spoke much about employed. That's the other hat that you're wearing, which is of many. Talk to me about employed and what the intent of that platform is.
Yeah, so it's running a bit slower than like a normal, like I'm treating it like a startup, because I run meetups that I go and ask questions that I want to know in terms of growing my business. And employed, at the core of it, it's about creating a platform that I don't think if you're in Australia, you've got a platform where you're like, I'm really just struggling with this job market and navigating the market. No single company or name comes to mind, unless I'm like trying to block them out because I'm just being so single-mindedly focused. But I'm in recruitment. I can't think of one. I know Seek when I want to go for a job ad, or LinkedIn to go network. But is there somewhere to tell me how to navigate all of this? That's what we're trying to get across. We have a platform where we've got a bunch of resume writers and career coaches. And we're just about to release like a little AI. It's not, we're working out how we do it, but basically that you can go in and you can say, hey, I need this help, and this is my industry, and this is my budget, and it'll recommend who and what you should be doing. And then we'll have I'm busy creating a course at the moment that you can just self-guide yourself through, which is like the 101 of job search, which isn't just CV cover letter. It's how do you network on LinkedIn? How do you create a bit of a personal brand around yourself so that you're standing out from the crowd?
That makes sense. I think if we can help people get into roles, we can attract more people into the startup scale-up ecosystem as well. It's probably not just for that, but I feel like there's a
Yeah.
good little tie up there. Uh, in Australia, there's a lot of small businesses and tech startups are slowly gathering some momentum. You have some real big ones, obviously, that come out of Oz, the Atlassians of the world, etc. But there's many little ones in little niche industries that are doing quite well, and good to be a part of and grow something new and tell it. That's the excitement of being in startup. What sort of
I
people do
love
you
it.
attract generally to startup? Because it's a different person, I feel, than a person going after that corporate job. What's the difference in the two categories, really?
Risk appetite. Not what, like they want to,
Sums it up
risk.
pretty much.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh my gosh. I speak to so many people who want to come along. Like when I've gone for co-founders, right? I've spoken to people and they're not ready to take that risk no matter how much they believe in it. So they'll just be giving a little bit of their time. We actually spoke, and I think this is relevant for a lot of people, but my last panel was on finding your your co-founder or your next 10x hire. And I think there's a couple of things in there, but we had Akhil Sharma from Antler, who obviously Antler do their whole residency program is around co-founder matching, but it can be applied to job, like just hiring your first key hires and that type of thing. There are so many elements of it, but there's risk appetite, there's true domain expertise within that. You want someone that's wanting to be a bit more innovative and think outside of the box as well, not just sit there and do their job, essentially. And
You
they
need
usually know
someone,
that.
yeah, you need someone that can really jump in. And the world of startup is, I might be hired for a marketing role,
Yeah,
but maybe I need to give some feedback on products. Like, it's reality of what it is early stage, right? How is that going to serve the market? There's
yeah.
a variety of different things you need to be doing. You're not going to be doing one thing, especially in the early scale up. Maybe it might get more to a point of that, but when you're an early stage startup, you're involved in a lot of things, and maybe you're involved in decisions that you maybe might not have been in this particular role before.
And I think you know that, like as an employee, I now look back on it and I'm like, I was not really, I mean, I needed to work in all the roles that I was, but I was too opinionated or too like wanting to do things better that I would have had a headache if I stayed in there. Like I had many headaches. You know that when you're in a business, you're currently a developer at a big bank, you know that you feel like that you're stuck in a box and that you can see a better way to do things. Well, at some point, that means that you're willing to take less money up front because you're like, I'm actually loving going to work to solve these problems. So that's what drives someone to jump into a startup, I think. It starts the equilibrium balances to a point that you're like, okay, I'll take less money, but I'm on this journey and I love it.
I'll tell you a bit about who we are. So I haven't experienced that journey. We started this business, Aerion, which is the core business,
Yeah.
2008. We were straight out
Yeah.
of uni. I've never had a corporate job in my life, so I don't know that
I've
experience.
So I've
Yeah,
done a
so
couple
it's,
of founder coffees. I
yeah,
started a
yeah,
series that I parked, and I talked to
yes,
somebody else like that, and I think you're
yeah,
mad. How do you
yeah.
do that?
Yeah. It was easy though. I was living at home. It was
True.
less risky. It was a decision I sort of made at that point. I said, "Oh, I've got nothing to lose, right?" So I was finishing up uni. A guy named Steve, he's not with the business anymore,
Yeah.
approached a few of us and said, I want to do something. And we had an opportunity, which was VSEC, which is the Victorian Space Science Education Centre. We were doing some uni work with them, and they
Yeah.
needed to go off and spin off some technology to educate kids. And we thought, all right, let's spin up a company and help them. And that's how it all started. Very simple, very small, had no idea what we were doing. But yeah, we run, like yourselves, 1, 2, and a third business coming. Close to 4 businesses now. There's about
Yeah.
40 of us,
Um,
Australia and internationally as well. And it's been it's always a journey upstairs in my mind, the world of business. So you always go up,
Love it.
plateau, up, plateau,
Yeah.
up, plateau. Sometimes you have a bit of a drop off a cliff and then you go
Yeah.
back, you learn, you evolve. But it's a fun journey and I can't go anywhere else now. I sort of just, enjoying
I've ruined
problem
it for
solving
myself.
too much.
And now I know like the value of like owning your own time and being able to, if it's your own business, your values are always aligned, because if you're having a clash of values, you're clashing with yourself. And ideally you're finding people that, values first when you're building that core team as well, so that you don't have that friction. You don't need values friction when you've got all this other friction about taking a product to market.
Values from our perspective, we started with 5. There's now 2 of us that are still left.
Yeah.
So over time, you sort of learn who's really in it for what reasons.
Yeah.
Who's really not in it, who's just in it for X, Y, Z. In the early days, you it's the same for any startup. You don't want to attract people that are just in it for a job. You're in it to grow something, to build something exciting. And if you're in it for a job, don't go and join a startup company. Stay right away, because that is not the reason why you're joining. You'll save yourself a lot of heartache as well as the business that you're joining. So just be aware of that as well.
I think as well, when you say that, like people are so risk averse with startups, right? But you are a commodity. And I mean, you might have a great manager, you might have an awesome team. There's values from the top end of a big organization that has quite a bit of money, might be really good while you're in there. But at this point in time, we have seen time and time again, big companies who might have made a record profit, but they're down the next year. They'll be still up overall, and they are letting people go. So the risk appetite, I think, is going to level out in startups' favor, right? We're going to start seeing people not be so concerned about job security, because where is job security? And that's probably why I've started employed.
Well, job security is just it's not real. There's nothing secure about anything. Any industry can change overnight and jobs can disappear. Any startup can get impacted and disappear, or it can grow and evolve and scale. That's anything. There's no such thing as security. I think we're on a hunt for nothing that really exists. It's coming from someone that doesn't believe in anything is secure, especially being in the world of what I've been doing for 16 years.
Well, I feel like there was job security though. I'm like not that old. I'm 32, but when I entered the recruitment market, I was 22. And I feel like there was job security. And we've just seen that completely change, particularly after COVID and that type of thing.
Major events impact, right? So they always do. And that just depends on the time frame. We're in the middle of one that's occurred, right?
Yeah.
But we look like, there's always been these historical events that have occurred. So there's the dot-com bubble is another example, and this is a long time ago. So there's always these history events occur that impact security.
It's so funny though, because, not funny actually, it's not funny at all. But and COVID, when everyone got let go, and then we went through this massive hiring problem where heaps of companies didn't have talent acquisition people to build out their teams again when they had all these projects to go. Where I remember having so many conversations, being like, "Oh, that'll teach them for letting them go," or "You've learned a lesson here. Surely you won't do that again." But they did.
Sometimes it's about the short term, solve the short term problem, and we'll figure out the bigger problem later, because it will come around again. They're aware of that, and you go these big organisations. They go into those decisions knowing that in 12 months, 24 months, we're going to have to go back on this. That's just the reality of the way it works.
Yeah, but I think it's good. Anyway, it's good for startups because I think we're going to level out. We've got so much cool things happening. I read, I can't remember who it is, but I read some big tech guru, can't remember his name. He was talking about the future of what business is going to look like. And it won't be, there'll always be these big corporates, like these multinationals and that type of thing. But I think it's going to look different, and they won't look as big as they are because they don't have the agility or the nicheness or the really inspiring engineers to go build or adapt to the market like startups do. And he was talking about the future being a bunch of different startups that are all going to have like these really innovative, tight products that they have adapted to the market, that type of thing. And that they're all going to interconnect. Like we see now a lot of startups work on partnerships and they're growing together and creating connection in that piece. And I think that's going to be the future of the world, and I can't wait.
There's a guy named Neville Christie you might want to check out. He's 86, give or take. He's like a 20-year-old, passionate startup guy, talks all about network and how we collaborate and build a better future. So go check him out. He's been on a podcast a couple of times.
I'm just saying one of the first things that come up is the tile from your thing. Yeah.
As a brilliant guy, really good energy, amazing at that age. And he's been an entrepreneur all his life. So go look at his history and just tells you a little bit about what his thinking is. I agree in some capacities, but then there's also different flavours that can sort of break it up a little bit.
Yeah, true. But I just maybe talking about what I wish for as well. I think that sounds cool.
Yeah, I agree. In terms of you, what drives you every day? Because you seem quite passionate about the space, but what gets you up in the morning to drive 3 businesses, all probably right around each other, supporting community and people, really?
I don't know, but I just find I bloody love it. The community side of things, I honestly, we do a free meetup every third Thursday of the month, and I reckon the next day I'm like ride a high afterwards. I do have a few wines as well that night, so it might be that. But
enjoy it.
we enjoy ourselves. But I think, honestly, I love the conversations. If I compare it to what I was doing before, the conversations that you have with people about what they're building, how they're doing it, like the things that I've learned in the last year by operating in this market is just more than I've learned over the last 9 prior. People are doing such cool things, and you see they're like 22-year-olds, they're 50-year-olds, they're like of such different demographics, and they're all connected by this passion to build something for themselves, or to even build something new that makes sense that we can't see in the world at the moment. And if you're in the startup world, your friends are different. Like I made a post about this actually last Friday, but a startup friend is so sticky. Like you meet someone once and the next time you are like the best of friends. I feel like these conversations that I've had that are only like convo 2 that go way deeper and are just so much more exciting than any that you're trying to warm up with your corporate mates or colleagues and stuff. I don't know, there's just something there. It's just a bit of magic, I think.
You're all riding a bit of a wild sort of carpet along a journey, and you're just strapping on, trying to learn from each other and evolve. And I think if you're open to sharing and communicating in this space, that's where we get a lot of value for yourself, but also you can add a lot of value to others. So there's a lot in that networking side.
That's actually it, right? Like so many, I've not asked one person to come on to speak. I don't pay them. You ask people for podcasts, or the people in the room are like, the space that we want to make with Aussie Founders Club is like, what the hell am I doing? Like, and people being able to experience, like share that they are struggling. It's not like when you go to a networking event for corporate, or I say corporate, but like any sort of established business, where you're all being like, we've got the best product in the world and I'm amazing at what I do. People are like, I'm having bloody fun, but can you help me with this in that room? And that's a different space, I think. Yeah.
I was in a wine and whiteboard with a group called Common Sense. Actually, Neville Christie introduced me to them and through some networks, And there was a room of startup founders and just different people that offer services to different spaces, people in businesses. And the one thing I realised is everyone's just trying to work it out. It's 100%. Just no one's honest though. So everyone's just trying to work something out. Someone had a marketing problem. Someone had a sales problem. Someone had a people problem. It's all about just problem solving collectively as a group. And that's the realisation. We don't have all the answers. There's no way we can pretend to. We're just trying to work it out, and we've always got one thing that we're stumbling across at the moment. And we get through that barrier, and then something else is going to come up. It's just the challenges of business and life, really. So that's one realization I've had when you were around those spaces.
I agree. I think as well, when you're one person, if you're a solo founder, or even if you're a duo, two co-founders, you only know what you know, and it's great if you can create that community where you can be asking people that have expertise outside of your own until you can go hire those people, because it's not a quick journey to be able to hire for what you need.
Correct. Megan, it's been a fascinating conversation, good fun. Been a pleasure to meet and connect. If anyone wants to learn about Kairos and yourself and employed, and also the communities, how can they reach out and find you?
Well, you can add me on LinkedIn, Megan Luttrell, but I can send you the links to things to put in your show notes, maybe.
Definitely, we'll put them through for you. Cool. Perfect, Megan. Well, thanks for joining us today. Let's stay connected. I think there's probably a lot we could potentially do in some capacity. Really nice to meet you, and we'll cut from there. Thanks for joining us again.
Awesome. Thank you for having me.